Hogan, kind of a different schedule we're on. We're going to tape this on Sunday now that all the shouting has happened post-debate. And I think if we had done a podcast, to be honest with ourselves, if we had done one immediately following the debate, it probably would have gotten lost in all the other stuff. So probably a good plan. What do you think? Have you had a chance now for a few days to gather your thoughts?
Yeah. So many problems, obviously, with Joe Biden. And let me just kind of start at the beginning and work my way around to something here. These aren't cheap fakes. They're not deep fakes. This is Joe Biden behind a podium, folks. But this whole collective rallying cry from the media, this wasn't good. It didn't look good. Look, I'm glad you came to Jesus on this, right? But we all know this guy's been in steep mental and physical decline for a long time. You pretended as though it wasn't happening. And the voice from the media is now saying there's some problems. He had a bad everything. It's ranged for everything. He had a bad day, but he'll be fine too. We got to replace him. I was on a podcast with Doug Collins, a former congressman from Georgia, and he said, I think that's going to be the new great replacement theory. Switch him out.
Wait, hold on a second. Are we allowed to talk about this one, the great replacement theory?
I guess this one, yeah.
You're not allowed to talk about that.
It's interesting because what the media is basically now saying is, I can't cover for this. We were fine covering for Joe Biden for the last 4 years.
For the longest time.
Until this debate.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, we can't do it. This is a bridge too far, even for us.
Even for the pro-administration, state-associated, state-supporting media. Well, let's get to all of that. I'm sure Hogan has some great insight, and I'm going to try to chip along. And also, we should note that Sunny Nelson is not with us. She had a little bit of a issue and not be able to do it, and we miss her, and she'll be right back, I'm sure, next week. But in the meantime, this is the Line Drive Podcast. So let's get to it, because there's a million different angles to this thing. The Biden-Trump debate, the very first one, the earliest presidential debate in modern times anyway, moving it all the way up to before the end of June, which is really unheard of. Neither convention has even happened yet. And, the conventional wisdom was that Biden's team, like I think you had said this, and others, I think maybe even the Biden campaign has acknowledged this, the idea was to change the narrative, to shake things up in the campaign, because Biden, it's well acknowledged he was losing. He needed to change the trajectory of this entire campaign. And I think maybe he did that, Hogan. He obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, there's every chance that you've seen the highlights and you know exactly what happened on Thursday night at the first debate. And it was a disaster. It was embarrassing. And I think a lot of people on the Biden side, Joe Biden, probably top of the list, have to answer for what in the world do you guys think you're doing? Everyone in the world can see that this guy is impaired. He definitely should not be running for president, and perhaps should not be president at this moment if it's that bad. Right. I mean, so you're post game now, a couple days in between, expand a little bit on your initial reactions and what you've seen other people react to.
Well, I like these nights because you and I are on a campaign right now. So we get to enjoy kind of the debate. You and I should always plan to do, we didn't for this one, but we should always plan to do like favorite tweet of the night or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
That'd be good. You may have one. I did see the Jon Stewart comment that made me laugh, where he said it kept showing Trump talking, and the split screen was Joe Biden and his that slack jaw, his mouth open, kind of staring off in the distance. And he said, we know he's got to change his resting 25th Amendment face. That was really good.
That is a good one. So let's stop there. So a lot of the stuff that's been going on, and we'll get to all these different things. But this notion, the idea, I think the idea that Biden was poorly served by his staff, and some people are like, there's Katie Rogers from the New York Times tweeted out today that there is palpable anger from inside Biden's inner circle, including his family. And I think that probably means Jill, about staff. They're mad at the staff for having over-prepared him, loaded him up with too many facts and figures and numbers and things. But, I think one of the greatest mistakes that anybody made. Now, maybe they couldn't have done anything about this or not, but that's the way they needed to coach Biden to remember, hey, see those things there around the studio? Those are television cameras. They're going to be pointed at you a lot of times. Always assume that you're on camera, because in that split screen, man, that split screen was not Joe Biden's friend. Oh my God. It was terrible.
That was one of the most brutal parts of it, was the split screen. I always blame the staff, so I get it. But in this particular instance, I think their team either inadvertently or on purpose raised the bar for Joe Biden here. Because remember, everyone's on our side was kind of, typically you want to, raise the bar for your opponent, lower the bar for yourself so you can achieve better. But in Biden's instance, remember, all these stories started coming out. He had 16 political experts around him at all times, training him, teaching him. They had a Hollywood-produced hangar with podiums preparing for exactly how this was going to go. They had different politicians or people, his own attorney, playing actors in the room like Dana Bash, like Jake Tapper, like Donald Trump. And then also it was coming out that they had lines prepared for him to kind of get under Trump's skin. They had zingers prepared one-liners for him. They said, oh, don't talk about your record, of course. That came out because the record's not very good, so don't talk about that so much. They had him, all these things coming out, these stories, whether leaked or by design, and it raised the bar because you're like, wait a minute, this guy has been doing this for 50 years. He's been doing it for half of a century. He's got the A-team around him. And that's what you got?
Right.
He came out and laid that flat and that bad. And let me just say this real quick because I want to get this out. I was following your Twitter on debate, now is great. But debates are always about creating a moment, a short, strong, sharp moment. Either one that's good, one that's bad. Either way, those moments matter. And you want to take your moments and build them into momentum, ultimately a movement, and then go on to win elections. There were three moments that really stuck out at me. One was 13 minutes in, Joe Biden lost his train of thought in the sentence and stopped and didn't know where to go with it.
Right.
That was a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was where he trailed off at the end of one of those sentences, started slurring his words and talking about something no one knew anything about. And Trump looked at him and just said, I don't think anyone – I didn't understand what you just said. He goes, I don't even think he understands what he just said. Great zinger. Not over the top mean, in the moment, also really good. And then third was when Joe Biden said black people are being hurt by inflation. After he was pressed on why they're not really supporting him as much this time. And he said, I think black people are being hurt by inflation. And Trump just leaned in and goes, you caused the inflation, Joe. That you did that. That to me kind of encapsulated the whole debate. There were others, and I'm sure we'll get to those.
Yeah.
But those three to me really just kind of like were gongs in my head, like, oh no. And after that freezing, every tweet was really not anymore about substance so much as it was about the performative failure of Joe Biden on that debate stage and how he looked aesthetically, how he sounded. And as you know, that's like 90% of it. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I said on TV, I did some media around this too, is that I wasn't alive for this, but I know the news coverage of it and what everybody talked about, the 1960 presidential campaign and the debates there, Nixon, Kennedy, and everybody talked about how, and it's been accepted as historical fact now, that people who watched those debates on television, because it was a new medium, thought that Kennedy won. He's a good-looking guy, very smooth, very glib, and all that. He was very polished. He was good at TV in those early days. People who watched him on TV thought he won. People who heard it on the radio thought that Nixon won. In this case, Biden lost everybody. Yep. He looked bad, sounded bad, everything bad. And you mentioned those three moments. If this had been a normal debate and everybody, or like a normal performance with normal candidates, and everybody was not focused on the fact that one of them looked like an extra from The Walking Dead. If it had been normal, I think people would still be talking about the fact that Biden claimed that on his watch, no members of the military have been killed. He actually said that. That no one in the military, he goes, and he said the only president this century or in the past decade or something like that. Very strange. Like why he would put those parameters on it. What are you even talking about? But then to claim that no military members have been killed during his presidency is insane because, as has been well documented, the very beginning of his slide in the public opinion polls was the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal when 13 American servicemen and women were killed during the withdrawal. And does he not remember that day? It's
how offensive. I mean, any Gold Star family, anybody watching, my mouth hit the floor when he said that. I was like, are you serious? That is such an affront to the memories of those people. That is such a slap in the face to the surviving loved ones of those who were killed in theater. It just made my blood boil to hear him say that. And as we kind of went back through, you and I were talking afterwards, and that was one of those other kind of moments that really made me angry. There was no clash in real time, so it didn't really ring out at the time.
I think that was a missed opportunity by Trump.
Missed opportunity
because Trump did not seize on that.
But also, when Jake Tapper asked him, so let me get this straight. If you think people, make sure I'm hearing you right, Mr. President, if people don't vote for you, those people are a threat to democracy? And he's like, yeah. So
that's what they think. Is there any doubt that's what they think? Look how they've treated all of us.
No, but even by definition, so let me get this straight. If a majority of people vote for your opponent, democracy is threatened?
Right.
Wait, that's the definition of democracy, where more people vote for somebody else.
I know.
Those other two instances, I think, will ring out. And if people are smart, that's an ad right there. No one died on my watch. And you flash to the news reports of the people who died in the Afghanistan withdrawal, et cetera, et cetera. I mean,
awful.
The parents crying, angry. This is so stupid on his part.
Let's now we're going. I want to see if we can talk a little bit about the way that people reacted to this now, like in the last, say, 72 hours following.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the moderators, which means
no, I think they did a very good job. I know Jake Tapper. I mean, I've been on Jake's show a few times, and so you've been on many times, I'm sure. And Dana Bash also is somebody that I know, and you know her as well. I really do. I think they did a fine job. They asked the questions. All of the questions I thought were. I mean, there were a few topics that they did not cover. They didn't talk about the fact that the last time that the two of them debated, Joe Biden lied about the Russian disinformation in the laptop. Could have asked him about that and all that stuff. But then again, CNN is culpable in the laptop stuff too. So anyway, you're right. I think that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash did a pretty good job. And they were not the story. I haven't heard really any complaints from our side or there. I mean, the other side is like they're mad that they didn't turn themselves into a 2-person fact checking crew and stop Donald Trump in mid sentence every time. But the other candidate on stage bears responsibility for fact checking the opponent too. Like that's Joe Biden's job too, to fact check. And if he can't do it in real time, why is anybody supposed to stick up for him?
Yeah, right? But what did Donald Trump lie about?
No, I don't think he did.
Right. And also, Joe Biden lied the whole time.
He lied about like everything.
Everything.
Starting with, hey, nobody got killed while I was president.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat, yeah. So, like at about halftime of the debate.
Inherited a mess, he said too.
Right. Yeah, this guy. He thinks inflation was 9% when he became president.
What I also thought was interesting was when he said, "You handled COVID so poorly," and I'm like, you got the shot, Joe, and so did Kamala, that Donald Trump got.
I know.
Like insane.
It's unbelievable.
Anyway.
So about halftime of the debate, and then we'll get into all this stuff that's been happening in the last 3 days. But about halftime when the debate was going on, I started seeing stuff flying around Twitter that sources inside the White House or sources familiar with Joe Biden's preparation, blah, 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 say that he has a cold. Now, here is CBS News, and this is after the debate is over and after everyone has witnessed what just went down, right? Yeah. Here's CBS totally buying it.
I think the first thing that many people witnessed in watching this debate was President Biden's shaky, hoarse voice. What's wrong with him?
Well, Nora, we only found out what's wrong with him about halfway through the debate. We started asking right away. As soon as he took the stage, as soon as he opened his mouth and started speaking, he obviously sounded raspy. And so I started firing off texts to various Biden campaign officials, what's wrong with him, and got radio silence. One person said, well, maybe he just needs to warm up. And then about 45 minutes in, a slew of responses from White House and Biden campaign officials saying, yes, he has had a cold for the past few days. He was examined by his personal doctor, Kevin O'Connor, at Camp David. He tested negative for COVID, but he does have a cold, and that's why he is raspy. But that really begs the question, Nora, why they didn't let people know beforehand to sort of set expectations among the audience so people weren't taken by surprise, particularly when so many voters already have concerns about his age, about his stamina. I asked all those White House officials after they confirmed that he was sick why they hadn't said anything in advance. Nobody answered.
Are you kidding me? She's so there. This is the reporter who I presume is covering the Biden campaign, right? So she's like the Biden embed.
Nancy
reporter.
Cordes.
Yeah. So she's out there and she doesn't want to offend the Biden campaign because she covers them every day. So she is out there actually on live national television, acting as though when she saw Biden up there performing the way he was performing, she was taken aback. And it was a total shock and a total surprise. And she wanted to know what's wrong with him. What's going on? What could it possibly be? Do you not have an idea in your head as to what could possibly be wrong with Joe Biden? And then, it's a cold. Well, why did they wait so long to tell us? That's the explanation. She's totally buying it. Are you buying her buying of it? Or is she?
No, look, she didn't go all whole hog in there, but I'll tell you what she did at the beginning, which made me think she was buying it, was when she said, when Nora asked her, hey, what was wrong? She goes, we didn't find out till halfway through. The way you phrase it, we didn't find out, means they're telling you the truth. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
we're asking for the true, real explanation.
Yeah, so what she said, what she should have said was, I asked them, they didn't tell me until halfway through, or they didn't respond to my question until halfway through. Here's what they said. You have to attribute it to them. You can't say that's true because you don't know. Also, she is right about this. If I'm Biden and I walk out there, I say, thank you, Dana. Thank you, Jake. Just want to let you know I'm a little under the weather. I've been getting over a cold. So please forgive the raspy voice.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to start your thing. Also, you and I just talked about everything that leaked from the people around him, to the preparation, to the golf carts, to the questions, the one-liners, to the zingers. You're telling me no one leaked he had a cold?
Yeah, right.
Come on.
They gave every detail except for giving him a little cover.
Except for giving him a cover. Yeah, exactly. Like, come on.
Yeah, these are the comms professionals at the White House. So here we go. This is the same network, CBS. Gayle King, to Gayle King's credit, about this Joe Biden had a cold thing. Don't think that Gayle King is on board.
Kept saying, he had a cold, but this is the thing. When you have a cold, there's many things you can take for it. We didn't know he had a cold until he stood up. A cold doesn't force you to lose your train of thought. A cold doesn't force you to just throw things out randomly that to many people made no sense. And so how long do we continue to act like that we didn't see what we just saw last night? I thought for many people, the word I keep hearing, it was very painful to watch.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
How long are we expected to pretend that we didn't see what we just saw?
Yeah.
Right. Now, for a lot of people, I think to her credit, she's actually saying that. But for a lot of people, for in the media, it's been a gradual decline. And the next thing I want to show is the side by side of the illustration of that decline. But for a lot of people in the media, they knew it was bad, especially over the last year or so, and they have hidden it, and they have berated and they have shamed anybody who dared question the president's mental fitness for office. And then, when the lie became too obvious to conceal anymore, now they're all like, "Well, this is we all saw what we saw." Yeah, but y'all been seeing this for at least a year, 2 years, 3 years, gradually worse as it gets closer to today, of course. But y'all have seen this. Don't pretend like it's just been discovered.
Yeah, but again, only one of two things can be true here. They knew it, right? And his staff, everybody, they knew it, and they were covering it up, or they're lying about it, right? They're either covering it up or they're lying about it. One of the two, I guess.
I think it's a combination of that.
I think
they're hoping that Biden can just Make it through this campaign, and they'll deal with it later.
Yeah. I guess they either didn't know or they knew about it and lied about it. But they all knew. I mean, like you said, they're with him all the time. And by the way, how many times have we heard from staff at the White House? Gosh, in private, he runs circles around us. He has the most that we can't keep up with him. And now I think to myself, how out of shape are y'all in?
Yeah.
If that's true.
Here's a quote. This is from Sunday's Axios, right? Sunday. So 4 days after the debacle. White House, this is from Axios. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates said, quote, "Not only does the president perform around the clock, but he maintains a schedule that tires younger aides, including foreign trips into active war zones, and improves the blah, 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 blah. Not only does the president perform around the clock, but he maintains a schedule that tires younger aides." They can't keep up with him. That guy, that man that we all saw on stage on Thursday night, he sets a pace that the 28-year-old White House staffers can't keep up with. Are you expect this guy? Every time that there is something that needs to be said out of the White House that no sentient human can possibly believe is true, they send out this guy, Andrew Bates, out to say it. They must believe this is what his colleagues think about him. They must believe that he has no credibility left to burn. So they send him out to say the stuff like that Biden is wearing out the younger aides because he operates around the clock and no one can keep up with him. Give me a freaking break.
Did you see the video that emerged after the debate of Jill getting him out off the stage, down the steps? He goes, yeah. For those at home who haven't seen it, I wish you had that clip. Jill Biden had to walk him down to go talk to Jake and Dana afterwards. And he had to turn his whole body parallel to the steps. And there weren't but like 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And gingerly make his way down. His wife held him the whole time really tight. I'm telling you, it was really, really, really bad.
Yeah, it is bad. There's no denying it. So seems to be a good time. If you're watching on Rumble, you'll really get the full effect of this. If you're listening on the audio version, you can still kind of get the picture. But this is 1 minute and 16 seconds of the comparison between the Joe Biden of the 2019 and 2020 debates and the Joe Biden of 2024.
I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
He wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if you will determine the outcome of this election, vote, vote, vote.
All right, that's enough of that. It's hard to listen to, actually. I think the reason why the media has had this great awakening and why a lot of people have had this great awakening about Biden's actual condition, which a lot of us have been called conspiracy theorists and mean-spirited and whatever else for drawing attention to over the course of the last couple of years. And we started doing this in 2019 and 2020, is because most Americans don't see the president, and they don't watch news religiously. They don't consume every word of it like we do. And they haven't seen Joe Biden really in action in a long time. And when you put him up on national TV with no safety net and no guardrails, and he's got 2 minutes to talk and he's having a hard time getting through the first 15 seconds, and the entire world can see him and they don't pay attention every day, it must have been really shocking for those people to realize, oh my God, this is our president. This is his condition. It's astonishing, particularly when you put it side by side with himself from just the last election. It's really, really remarkable.
It is. Look, in addition to his cognitive decline, his physical decline, he's also an imbecile. His policies have really hurt this country. The American people are suffering, and our enemies are foaming at the mouth to try and take more from America in some form or fashion, whether it be directly to us or going after our allies around the world. If I'm Trump moving forward, you all saw the guy. I'd be more of the tactic of, we all saw the guy. Okay, he's not for the job. America is strong, or our president's weak, but America's strong. And you listen to me, other nations that would dare do us harm, right? You make a move on us in 6 months, cavalry's coming in January, and don't think I'm gonna let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
You make a move on us, I'm coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even
That's right. Anything you do in these next 6 months, it counts, buddy.
And it counts on my watch. You get ready.
Keeping track. Yeah,
I think that would be a baller move by him.
It would be. That would really be strong.
Yeah. But it does make me fearful for what people are going to do. I mean, there was a story that had come out, I guess, that there were 500 people had come into this ISIS terrorist network of
ISIS-linked human smuggling chain.
Yeah, human smugglers and everyone's like, the administration's like, look, we don't have 500 ISIS people coming in here. All right, well, first of all, you don't know that because you don't vet them, and there are millions of gotaways. So you have no idea. But second of all, the follow-up, well, okay, let's say they're not all ISIS. There's a ISIS immigration transportation network into our country? What?
But that's another thing that Biden did say. It was just a one-sentence line where he should not have said it, I'm sure, as people thought. But he said something like, I'm not trying to tell you that there are no terrorists getting in, or words to that effect. Yeah, so he was acknowledging, oh, yeah, sure, there's probably some terrorists in there. Yeah.
Sure. Whatever.
Astounding. So here's the stage now as Biden supporters were dispatched to the Sunday shows to try to clean up. Whereas the editorial pages of the New York Times and others, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I think, is one of them. I think the Washington Post had a strongly worded one, but I don't think it went as far as the New York Times. New York Times boldly said, basically, get out. It's time to go. Joe needs to step aside, right?
Yeah.
But so that's like the elite of the left, the New York Times editorial page, of course. But then word goes out to Biden's allies, the elected Democrats, and they're tamping down. I think the people sounding the alarm politically are correct on the Democrat side. Yeah. They are correct. This guy has to be replaced as the candidate. And that begs the further question. If he is not fit to run for president, is he fit at this moment to be president? Right. If he should withdraw from the race, should he not also resign as president? Point. You know, but the elected Democrats have been dispatched to the Sunday shows to go out and tamp this down, and they are going to try to memory hole this debate debacle as just a bad debate night. You know, they're like, well, hey, Barack Obama had a bad first debate against Mitt Romney. You know, come on, everybody has a bad debate every once. This was not a clunker of a performance. This is about Joe Biden's very being. Yet these Democrats are out there now saying, hey, man, it wasn't really as bad. And so they're doing exactly what Gayle King said that she won't do if she's expected to do. Gayle King doesn't want to pretend that she didn't see what she just saw. But Senator Raphael Warnock wants to act like nothing happened. Here you go. Here's him on Meet the Press on Sunday after the debate.
Senator, I know we're not there yet, but as you well know, there's a lot of buzz about whether or not President Biden will step down. If he does, would you like to see Vice President Harris at the top of the ticket? Is she the next strongest person to represent Democrats?
I have great respect for Vice President Harris, whom I spent a great deal of time with. But Joe Biden is the nominee, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris come November.
If he's not the nominee, is she the strongest choice?
I think it is quite unhelpful to be imagining about a scenario other than the one that's in front of us. We've got real enemies abroad. And this is a serious race at a moment. Listen, elections at the end of the day are not only about the character of the folks who are running, but the character of the country. And this is our moral assignment in this moment to demonstrate.
Okay, character of the country, moral assignment. I've seen others referring to this as like, hey, we're not just voting for a guy, the president. We're also voting for an administration. Like, no, I no. What are we? Some sort of parliamentary system where
No,
you
you're
vote
not.
for a party and a platform, and then no. You're voting for the individual person.
Yeah.
And I'm not voting for the deputy secretary of the
Yeah.
EPA or the deputy secretary of the Interior. Who I don't vote for those people. I vote for the person at the top of the ticket.
Yeah.
So there's Warnock saying, nah, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about this. We got to move on. And then
what else do you say? Like,
I mean,
good for him.
I don't know if it's good, I guess, but what he is choosing to say, I would rather have Joe Biden because I think he's a better guy, or he used to be a better guy. There's no way that you can look at Joe Biden and say that he's functional now. You can say that you liked his character beforehand, I suppose, but you can't say that guy, just because you used to like him and think that he was a good guy, should still be president, even well after he has exceeded his usefulness, right?
Well, look, two schools of thought here on the left. Either you got to replace the guy or you got to keep the guy. If you're keeping him, you got to go all in and keep him. Kamala Harris is the best because she's number 2. She's the vice president. She's been by his side. But that's a dumb scenario because he's still the president of the United States. He's still the one running the show. He's the nominee. He's the best. He's so great. He's so wonderful. Fine. That's what you're going to say. Or you go, look, this is a real problem. All we care about on the left is gaining and maintaining political power. He doesn't help us do that anymore. He served his purpose. Let's get rid of this guy and put someone else in his place. Those are your two schools of thought. There's nothing really in the middle here, right? You can't say, hey, Biden, why don't you come out publicly now and say, listen, I'm the top of the ticket. It's too clunky to try to get rid of me before the convention. So I'll be the nominee, but in like the first 90 to 100 days, I'll put Kamala in as he can't split that baby. You're either with him or you're not. That's just the bottom line, I think. And if Warnock's going to be with him, he's going to be with him.
Yeah. Well, here's Chris Coons, who's another Democrat congressman or senator. He's from Delaware, so he knows Biden pretty well. Here he is, and this is on ABC this week on Sunday.
Do the president's advisors, his political advisors, the campaign, did they bear any responsibility for what happened Thursday? They obviously had 6 days to prepare the president. They designed these rules. These were rules that were asked for by the campaign and accepted by the Trump campaign without change. Do those advisors bear some responsibility? This was, as I think you would acknowledge, this was a bad night for Biden. Did they bear responsibility?
Look, I think it was a weak debate performance by President Biden. He had a scratchy, rough voice. He answered a few questions in ways that were not the most forceful. But I think side by side, Donald Trump had a horrifying debate performance where, yes, he spoke plainly, but what he said was.
Okay.
There's your spin.
There's your spin. So John Carl, who also we both know, and I like John Carl, he's given Chris Coons an out. He's given Chris Coons the chance to blame staff there. I mean, honest to God, that the man who stood up there and demonstrated to the world that he shouldn't be within 100 meters of the nuclear football, and you're going to blame it on debate rules? To Chris Coons' credit, I guess he didn't take that lifeline, but he did still say he's tried to pass it off as a poor performance, and we'll get by, we'll move on. That it's not going to get better. People who are in that sort of decline don't suddenly improve. They may have a good day here and there, but on the trajectory never goes back up again.
He's not Benjamin Button. He's not aging in reverse. Okay.
Right.
He's still going to be older by the time we have a next debate. And look, I'm glad you played that clip because it reminded me too. These were Joe Biden's rules. Yeah. These were Joe Biden's, moderators, Joe Biden's network. Everything was under his terms. I mean, that's kind of the even more shocking part of this. And I think we talked about this in a couple of Line Drive podcasts earlier, where we're like, he's stacking the deck. He's got everything he's wanting at his fingertips. So if he fails, it's going to be really, really spectacular. And he did. Yeah. And he did fail.
I said it on here, and I said it pre-debate on different media appearances. I was ready. I thought Biden was going to do well.
I did too.
I thought they had him. They were going to have him everything coordinated, like leading up to a prize fight for an aging fighter. You know, you gear everything towards, they had everything focused to 9 p.m. on Thursday night, his sleep schedule, his diet, everything, whatever vitamins,
Sure.
quote unquote vitamins they were giving him, all geared towards 9 p.m. When I wonder what was like backstage in the holding room. Did they know what kind of condition he was in, like moments before he goes out there?
You know, as well as I do, stories will start to come out.
Yeah.
In the next
like right
week.
before he goes out on stage, were they thinking, oh my God, I can't believe we're
right when he
him
opened
up.
his mouth. What were they?
Yeah.
Like I was in New York at a doing some TV up there and just talking to reporters. You know, I talk to some cameramen pretty regularly, and they're always like, we voted for Trump.
They're the ones who will tell you the truth.
We're going to do it again. We'd vote for Trump again. We're going to vote for him again. We love the guy. Yep. So after the debate, I was talking to some cameramen and women, and they were like, yeah, Biden looked horrible. Like, I think Trump's got this one in the bag. And I thought, okay, well, that's kind of, the rank and file, right? Those are the folks who work every day. They're not the anchors of the reporters. And I started talking to a lot of journalists I know too, and they were like, horrible, not good, horrible, horrible, horrible. A lot of texts they were getting from Democrats saying, I don't know what we're going to do. This is a really bad deal. But what I wanted to say was, we hinted at this before. This is not a surprise to anyone.
Nope.
It's not.
I mean, let me say, it was not a surprise, but it was
brought up on charges, taken to court, because in the DOJ's report, it said he would come off as an elderly, old, doddering grandpa that no one would want to convict. He's too weak and frail.
Not fit to stand trial is what they said.
He can't stand trial because of that. Yep. And what? So it's not, we knew that. How many times the media literally came up with a phrase, cheap fake, to try and bail them out of these edited videos we see.
Mm-hmm.
And now they got nothing, no veneer.
They were trying to
hide behind it at all.
They were trying to create the notion in people's minds that any piece of video that they saw where Joe Biden was looking like a doddering old man, that it had the potential to be a fake piece of video or somehow digitally altered or edited or something, right? That's why they did the cheap fake thing, to cast doubt over any time people saw him acting that way.
Yep.
Well, during the course of a 90-minute live televised debate that is clearly not edited, no Snapchat filters on that bad boy. There's nothing. It's funny. So pour one out for the death of the cheap fakes canard. That was a lie that came out of White House comms again. I would imagine that was once again Andrew Bates's handiwork. And so then there's that, and also where does Her go to get his apology? He was demeaned by every Democrat under the sun, saying, that the report that he wrote when he announced that he was not going to charge Biden for the document stuff, like you're just talking about, announcing that he was not mentally fit to stand trial. Everyone said, oh, it's a political hit job. That's irresponsible. The attorney general won't release the audio tapes of that interview. And now we know exactly why.
Sure.
And Garland is being held in contempt of Congress for failing to release those tapes. We know now why. And it's just another example of their lawlessness.
And by the way, if those tapes were good and he was sharp, I'd release him today.
Sure,
I'd release him.
If he was sharp, if that would be White House comms, Andrew Bates would tell him, go ahead and release those tapes.
Yeah.
But first, call them cheap fakes. So where do you place? There's lots of people being blamed for this, staff and so on. Negotiators negotiating the rules, staff over preparing. As far as the overall thing, which is placing a guy in the condition that Joe Biden is in the circumstances that he's in, as in running for re-election for the toughest job on earth, in the brightest spotlight on earth, running for that job. Who put him in that spot, aside from himself, of course? How much responsibility does Joe Biden bear in all this? What do you think? A lot of people saying bad things about Joe Biden, about elder abuse and all that. What do you think?
Okay, I think his family bears some of the responsibility. They know him better than anybody. They see it every day. I think that he bears responsibility too. And politicians have egos. I mean, by definition, what you're saying is I'm better to do this than anyone else. Okay,
right. Yeah.
Staff clearly bears some responsibility because after all, they know him too. They should have set this up better for him. And in that debate, you could tell he was trying to recall. He had a number or two. I mean, that golf thing, I bet that golf thing was scripted when they got into an argument over their handicaps. I guarantee you it was scripted.
Right, let me ask you a question.
But hang on, let me finish this. Let me finish the thought.
All right.
But I'll tell you who's to blame here, 100%. And this particular individual is undefeated. Father Time.
Oh, yeah.
That's who's to blame.
Sure,
and he all comes for us in different times, in different ways. He's here for Joe Biden.
Yeah, but nobody who matters in the Biden camp is acknowledging that. I mean, Father Time is winning this election if you're Joe Biden. Joe Biden is trailing. Biden is losing to two different people. He's losing to Donald Trump and Father Time, right?
Yep.
But he bears responsibility, and we know that Joe Biden has a chip on his shoulder the size of Texas. He always feels like throughout his course of his life, he hasn't gotten his due. He's never been given his fair share. He's always Joe from Scranton. He didn't go to the fancy schools and all that stuff. And he's really resentful about a lot of things.
Well, he had to drive an 18-wheeler.
Well, true. Yes,
it's hard when you start.
I know he came up. I know.
I mean,
he went to the same private school that my brother did. It's not like he was out, selling pencils on the street corner.
Yep.
The same private high school, Archmere Academy in Wilmington, Delaware. I know the school well. My brother went there. It's a fine school, but it's not, Exeter or any of these, Northeast boarding schools.
Not even close.
Or that's not Ole Miss. That's true. So, but I'm sorry, I interrupted you about the golf part. Guy claims that when he was vice president, he had his handicap down to 6. What's the lowest your handicap's ever been? You ever been a scratch?
I can be close. If I play a lot in the summer, I can be really close.
Okay. So you've had a better handicap than Joe, or you do, maybe you currently do, better than Joe Biden claims that his best ever was. Have you seen any tape? Have you ever seen any tape of Joe Biden playing golf?
I've seen him swing a couple times.
Yeah. Any chance in your mind that a guy with that swing would ever be a 6?
No, I saw they released it, like the screenshot of it. One of the reporters at Politico always does his bidding. I can't remember who it was, but they put out like a screenshot of his handicap being a 6.
A screenshot of what?
Huh?
A screenshot of what? What was it?
Someone put a screenshot up of Joe's side-by-side handicap with Trump's and his. Trump's was at 2 and Biden was at 6. No way that's true.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, first of all, you can enter any information into the handicap machine in the clubhouse that you want, or any app or any software that keeps track of your handicap. You can tell it anything you want. All right, so I'm just not buying that. So I think that Joe Biden is the one. She's the one who needs to tell him it's time to hang it up. But I don't know.
I don't want her to
do that. No, I don't want her to. I don't want her to either. But
I want this fight.
Yeah. Well, here's the ultimate question then. Let's just boil it down to this. Does Joe Biden make it to November as the Democratic candidate? You believe he does?
Mm-hmm. You're already seeing a lot of this stuff simmer down a little bit.
It has simmered down, but this is also, I mean, I wonder if people are operating under the assumption that this is the last time we're going to see something like this.
But I've also never seen the media when the media is in unison on something, it always makes me leery of why. They're in unison here, and that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, they can reel it back in, and they're the kings of forgetting everything that they've previously said.
Well, that's true. That's true too.
I just don't know. This stuff like this is going to keep happening. Maybe not as spectacularly as during the debate, but there are going to be other moments, and the campaign can weather this one, and he's not going to be gone inside a week or anything. I don't.
No.
But between now and when the convention happens,
remember they got to do it before then.
I know,
because of Ohio.
August.
They got to do it.
But they're going to allow August 7th.
Yeah,
is the Ohio ballot access.
Well, I think they're doing it the 1st of August, I think, or something like that.
Maybe, right. But, between now and then, that's still more than a month. And stuff like this is going to keep happening. I just, I want Joe Biden. I think the rematch is what Joe Biden and Donald Trump should have. And I believe that he should stay on the ballot. He is their nominee, and letting them replace him is kind of giving them an out.
I think we do it from the driving range. I think the next debate should be from the driving range and just have these guys go out there and hit golf balls
at Top Golf, maybe.
Yeah, let's see that, right?
Do it at Topgolf. I want to play one more clip here, and then we can wrap it because we're going along here. This is I don't have any particular message about this one or anything that this particularly says, but I'm just going to play it. It's Nancy Pelosi acting crazy.
My people are very much Biden, Kamala Harris, and this is an opportunity for Joe Biden to go out there and show he has the stamina and the rest. And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together.
Right. So the debate that everyone on the planet just watched. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's takeaway is that Donald Trump is
Donald Trump who has the I mean, Tim, no, our guy's not demented. He is, right? Like, no, we're not. You are, like, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi's clearly lost it as well, but you cannot, with a straight face, although she tried, watch what we just watched and think anything other than one of these guys is in a severe, rapid physical and mental decline.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
And and by the way, let's just say Nancy Pelosi's right. Let's just say some doctors say Trump has dementia. If he's got dementia, what the hell does Joe Biden have?
Yeah, right. And how do they explain all these things like this Andrew Bates talking about, he's running circles around all of his younger aides and all these foreign trips and all that stuff. How do you explain when he goes to the G7, he's the only G7 leader who didn't show up at the dinner? Why did Joe Biden not come to dinner while he was at the G7?
If that were Trump, they'd still be talking about it.
Yeah. Why do you think he didn't show up for dinner? Because he couldn't make it. He couldn't hang. He couldn't hack it. Look at him. Honestly. So there's enough people saying, hey, we have to call him as we see him, but there's more people. They're outnumbered by the people who are trying to say nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the Democrats, look, I think that the Trump campaign would rather run against Trump. I'd rather run against Biden. I think that's obvious. And I think Biden wants to make it so. And I guess that the fact is, if he does not release those delegates that are bound to him under DNC rules, if he does not say, okay, I'm gone, then he's the nominee.
Yep.
And it has to be him. The question is, I think somebody has to get to Jill, and then Jill has to sit down and tell Joe.
Maybe.
I don't know. Either way, it's a mess, and I would far rather be where Donald Trump and the Republicans are than where Joe Biden and the Democrats are, because if they do try to swap them out, what a mess that's going to be, because they got to deal with the Kamala Harris problem.
Can't wait.
Nobody wants her as the nominee, but boy, if you remove her, whoo-wee.
Then you're a racist and a sexist and a bigot.
Yeah, that would be something fun. Like I said, no one knows. There's no chance that anybody has any inkling of what is in store. We have no idea what's coming. It's going to be wild. But anyway, Hogan, thanks for making time in your many busy travels and all the different things you got going on. I appreciate it. Sonny Joy Nelson, not with us today, but she will be back next week, I hope. And it's good to see everybody. Glad you're all back. And this has been the Line Drive Podcast.